Welcome to the Reticle Up podcast, where I, 3-Gun Kenzie, will be interviewing competitive shooters, hunters, fishermen, archers, entrepreneurs, and outdoorsmen. Come learn with me as I interview people from all walks of life, in different disciplines, all across the world, from novices to professionals of all ages. No matter what, everyone has something they can teach you, so come join me on the journey. All right, everybody, I have Courtney Gray on today. Very excited because she's another professional shooter, female firearms instructor, kind of badass. She's a welder, an outdoors woman, and we're going to get into all of that. So, Courtney, I'm excited to have you on.
Thanks, Kenzie, for having me. I'm excited.
Me too. And there's not many of us 3-gunners, diehard 3-gun gals, I would say.
There are not. There's only at best a couple handfuls.
Yeah.
So it's always nice to hang out and chat with gals that are doing the same stuff that I am and experience the same ups and downs and sidewayses and all those types of things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to start off with a little bit of like where you're from. Tell me about, how you grew up and if, firearms were part of your childhood.
So I was born into a military family. My dad was in the Air Force when I was born. He was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base, Las Vegas, Nevada. And then my mom decided she wanted to move back to Colorado when he was discharged. And so she said, "I'm going to Colorado. Are you coming?" And he's like, "Well, you have my kid, so yes, I'm coming." And so we ended up here when I was 7 months old. So I tell people all the time I'm not a Colorado native, but I got here as quick as I could.
I like that. So were they pretty gun friendly?
I think my folks were mostly indifferent to guns. They weren't against them. They weren't for them. They just weren't a part of my actual experience as a child. But then, in scouting endeavors and, hanging out with some of my other friends, I got to shoot some, 22 rifles and some bows. And then eventually I got to shoot, I think, somebody's little 22 Rough Rider revolver or something. I don't remember what it was. And then it was not really until I was an adult and I was four-wheeling, and you get a bunch of Jeep guys around and some whiskey flowing, and it's only a matter of time before whiskey comes out or before the firearms come out. And so that was my first very dangerous intro to firearms as an adult. Because you should totally be drunk and in the dark when you're handling firearms. And all these guys like bring them out, they're loaded, they're not even in a holster, they're just like, "Here," and I'm like, "Okay, yay." And so it wasn't really until like I bought my first firearm that I wanted to keep for a long time. I bought one when I was like 22.
Okay.
Held on to it for a while. Didn't really ever shoot it because I was mostly afraid of it. Didn't know what to do with it. And I also didn't really know where to go. So it just sat in my toolbox locked up all the time. And so, fast forward almost 2 decades, and decided that I wanted to have a handgun. Being in a lesbian relationship, there's some of that is a matter of safety. So my very first gun was a Walther PPQ. Yeah.
Level.
I am a Walther girl through and through. There's a couple of them around here. So I love my Walthers. They just fit my hand. For the very first time I shot one, I just fell in love with the ergonomics and all that sort of thing.
Same. I had Q5 CCP, I have PPK, and I have the PDP.
I haven't picked up the PDP yet. I still own the original PPQ. I've got the PPQ matched polymer frame, and then this one's the steel frame behind me. PPS, PPK, PPKS. I had two of the brand new PPKSs, but gave the other one to my best friend. So
yeah. Sorry I distracted you, but I am totally a Walther fanatic.
Oh yeah. And that's funny enough, that's what keeps me from kind of transitioning into a different weapons platform. Because I have like 12, no, I have 19 Walther magazines with some sort of Taylor freelance base pad on them. So to think about going to a different platform and replacing all of that seems like a lot. And so that's what I haven't done it yet. I'm still considering it. I'm still thinking about campaigning a 2011 and 2022, which I know you want me to do bad, but I just we'll see. I'm also looking at a particular shotgun. So
yeah, priorities. I get that. I had someone interview me actually on a podcast. They're like, what would you have done sooner? And I was like, hands down, I would have bought a 2011 to start with.
I think I would have, I don't think I would have had the confidence to compete with a 2011. And I also probably wouldn't have bought a 2011 as my first gun.
No, but
Maybe,
I would really want to switch. Like the trigger is not for first time shooters. Learning the safety mechanism is not for first time shooters. With that.
Yeah. So we'll see. I've got a couple of things. I was talking to Mike Stoker the other morning, and I don't know why he answered his Instagrams at 7 a.m. his time, but thanks, Mike, for doing that. And we were talking some 2011s, and of course he's trying to get me to buy an Atlas.
You need
because that's his job.
Get it. He's never offline. Like he is, but he isn't. So same.
Yeah, I was really surprised because I was just writing it up like, oh, he'll reply later.
Yeah.
Nope. 7 o'clock his time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when you go back to shooting and stuff, kind of what's interesting is sometimes females tell me their first experience and it's like, yeah, I shot a 12 gauge and I hated it. And now I never want to shoot again, right? There can be like a turn off to some of that. So, for your experience, I'm surprised you kind of came back to firearms.
I think because there was never an accident, I wasn't ever scared. Like I didn't know a lot about them. So I was always very, very cautious and knew like keep your booger hook off the bang switch. Like don't touch that part of the gun until you're ready. I knew that part, but it was, for me, it was just, I wanted a peace of mind. And then from there, people were like, yeah, you're really good at this. Have you ever thought about competing? And I was like, no, not once.
I love it. So you were kind of like a naturally good shot then starting out.
I must have been. I mean, I rarely missed paper at 7 yards, which now I feel is pretty hard to do. But I've always been into aiming sports activities, whatever you want to call it. So in high school, I was into bowling. I joined a dart league for a while. So there's just always been a lot of hand-eye coordination type of stuff. And then anything that can be raced, I'll race it.
Yeah, I agree.
If it's cars, I've raced them. Rock crawlers, even though it's not really a race platform, race that too. Never raced motorcycles, but it came close a couple times. Raced mountain bikes, raced skis, but never snowboard. Even though I've been invited to compete in snowboard competitions, I'm like, I'm too old for that shit.
I think I want to do lawnmower racing. Like I've seen that be a thing.
Yes, I have a donor right there.
Okay.
On the other side of that wall.
Gotta go.
It's already got flames.
You told me that. I remember when you saw my stories. I have 2 lawnmowers. I'm like, I swear to God, if I come out there, I'm trailering that sucker back.
Yeah, let's put a Hayabusa engine on it and let's go.
Those videos are amazing on the internet. I'm like, this is my people.
I would die. I would be one of those guys that like does the backflip on into his head and then I just don't wake up.
I would have to have full hockey gear or crash dummy gear, like all of it. So I know.
Yeah, and a roll bar.
Age. That's funny. Oh man. Okay, thinking back to 22 years old, right? Was when you bought your first gun, right?
That's when I acquired my first gun.
Right.
And then I bought my first one when I was like 38 or 39.
Okay. So when did you end up actually, pursuing your concealed carry permit?
Um, as soon as I was comfortable with that gun, which is about 6 or 8 weeks later.
Okay. Awesome.
Because that was the reason that I purchased it to begin with. Not, when you're a size 8, not the best conceal carry option on the planet. I didn't know that. And so I carry it in small on my back all the time because my back's kind of naturally arched. And so that was the only place that I could carry it where it wasn't completely obvious that I just had a gun on me.
Yeah.
Because anywhere else that I tried to do it, it just printed as a gun all the time.
Yep.
So I was like, okay.
Can't do that with her competition rig. She's got this weird hip bones. She's got to move it towards the back of her, and appendix is the only thing that works for her, right? So we all are very unique in how we carry.
Yeah, and I carry a couple different ways. I'll carry appendix either with this style holster from Long Shadow, or I just picked up this 365 X, and this is more for outside the waistband. But Comfort Concealment also makes one where it sort of rides right here, which is kind of nice when you got some of those summer clothes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I almost always carry appendix though.
Yeah. Is the Comfort Concealment thing you're talking about that like belt almost? That's not a belt.
Yeah.
I really want to try that. I saw that, so I'm gonna buy one of those soon and check that out.
Yeah, check it out. I learned about it from Lena like a month ago.
Okay.
Out in Grand Junction. She was showing it to us, and I was like, that looks like a good idea. So I went and bought one.
That's so cool. Yeah, I've been trying.
Yeah.
Then the new like T-Rex Arms has the cool dowel that you can take out and change like whatever you're gonna have next to your gun, which is pretty cool. And then of course the Comfort Concealment. I want to try everything. You know what I mean? There's more innovation to be had, I think, in that area.
Oh yeah, I'll try anything twice. Once to find out, twice to make sure.
That is true though. Okay, of shooting for real, right? Like if you go to your first match, it's gonna suck. Doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna suck. It's gonna suck. You have to do it at least twice.
So I'm gonna lead the segue here.
Okay.
DQ'd my very first match. That's my DQ story.
3-gun, yeah.
My very first 3-gun match I DQ'd. I never DQ'd in a pistol match prior to that, even including when I did a nosedive. It wasn't with this exact same Q5 because I broke it. But I went muzzle first, like feet up in the air, muzzle first into the concrete, and actually broke the frame. I shot 3 more matches with a broken frame before I realized exactly what was going on. So there's that.
Yeah.
So that's my first DQ story. It was when I got up from a position on a spool, got a brand new scope, right? It's all stiff. Come out of that position, come up. I'm bringing the gun up as I'm cranking that over, and as it does it sort of twists the gun in my grip a little bit. And as I come up and I bring it to my shoulder, I sort of choke up on the grip right as I'm entering the trigger guard. And that guy's was a little sensitive that day.
It happens.
Put one right into the ground, right below the target.
Oh.
I'm like, and I shot 4 more shots before the RO was like, stop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I can't lie about these kinds of things. So they're like, well, did you mean to shoot that? And I was like, no. I didn't.
It happens.
It happens.
Sometimes, yeah, a second to catch up, but they know.
Yeah, they're like, that didn't seem quite right.
I'm glad you stuck with it because that's a big thing.
Oh yeah.
And then you said pistol matches. So did you start in like USPSA or Steel Challenge, or what was the first?
I started in IDPA.
Okay.
And did that for I think just about 2 years. And just decided that it wasn't my jam. For a lot of people, they really enjoy it. There's some rules that didn't necessarily make sense to me. I think they've maybe changed some of those rules since I've played in that sport. But I went back last season and shot another match just for fun. I was like, it'll be a good tune up. And there was this nice little array of, I could see all the headshots from one position. And I was like, sweet, boom, 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 done. Mode show clear. They're like, down one, down one, down one, down. Two in the head. Awesome, cool.
Dang. Oh yeah.
So they're all A-zone headshots, but that's not enough.
No, it's 3-gun. What I don't like is the tack reload. If I'm out of ammo, I'm dropping the mag. If I'm in like a life or death situation, I'm not trying to pick up that empty magazine for any reason.
I'm not. That was one of those that bugged me too, because like, just because I can count my rounds, like, okay, I can see the safety aspect of being inside of a range, dropping ammunition on concrete. Okay, I can see that. But if I'm dropping an empty magazine because I still have one in the chamber and I can stab that on the go and keep going, I don't see why that's a rule violation. But it is, and
part of the game.
that's okay.
Yeah.
But I did hear that they changed some of that.
Yeah.
Shot a couple of USPSA matches, and it was somewhere in there, and I don't know whether I was at an IDPA match or if I was at a USPSA match, but somebody was like, yeah, we're pretty high energy, and you don't really sit still very well. Like, you'd really like 3-gun. And I'm like, 3 what? And I'd never heard of 3-gun before, no idea what it was. Got home, looked it up on YouTube. 4 hours of my life later that I didn't realize that I lost. I'm like, how do I find 3-gun matches around here? I didn't have a shotgun, and I'd only shot an AR twice. Didn't own my own AR. But Rachel, my wife, I had bought her a Stoger M3000 for Christmas because she likes shooting trap, and so I was like, that'd be great. And I was like, so can I borrow your shotgun for a little while?
I gave you.
That didn't really work because now it's just my shotgun. So I still owe her a shotgun, I think.
Years later.
Yeah, like almost 5 years later, I owe her a shotgun.
Oh.
But she does own the most expensive gun in the safe, so
She won. Yeah.
In the end, she won.
I love that.
Yeah, so I think I bought my AR. Well, I know what day it was. I bought my AR the end of January. Had the shotgun, got some practice in, and I think I shot my first match in March.
Was the shotgun worked over by any chance, or was it stock?
Going stock.
Same. So I shot first time 5-round capacity, a Stoker M3000, no work to it. Just trying to load one at a time in there. It was great.
Yeah. Quad loading was one of those, like, after that first match, I was like, okay, tell me about this quad loading thing. Like, how does this work? So I went home. I watched a bunch of videos on opening up that port. And being a metal worker, it wasn't something that was intimidating for me to do myself. A lot of people will just get in there with a Dremel and do all that sort of thing. I got a die grinder with an aluminum flute. Like, yeah. We made short work of it. And so, but I'm trying to practice quad loading and I'm not getting it. And I have larger hands and I'm just upset and I'm pissed off. And so finally I decided I'm gonna start drinking because I've had it. I can't deal with this anymore. And so I pour myself a glass of whiskey and I'm using Fiocchi dummy loads, trying to get it, yard sailing, shells everywhere, lots of cussing. Rachel left the room. She was just like, this is ridiculous. And after the second glass of whiskey, and it went in, and I was like, oh, what just happened? So I grabbed another 4 shells and I was like, oh my God. Ever since then, I've had it. So there's your friendly tip, friends. Drink while you learn how to quad load. It makes it easier. Anything you can do drunk, you can do sober.
That's true. Maybe it's not stand up and not karaoke though.
That is true. That is true.
Ask me how
No.
I know, but
I don't do either one of those things. So I think I'm covered.
it's so cool though. A little bit of liquid luck or liquid courage can help. So that's
Or
awesome.
just Bala don't give a fuck.
Yeah, just a little bit loose, having fun.
Yeah, like conceptually I had it. I was just so stiff
Yeah,
that I wasn't doing it. And so once I was relaxed, I was able to do it. And so
yeah. I think people overthink the technique a lot. You know, it's 4 shells, dude. You're good. 2 doubles.
yeah, and I have acrylic nails. Like
I don't know how you do that.
I have dudes all the time. Well, I'll tell you that story in a second, but I have dudes all the time say, oh, I can't quad load. And their hands are bigger than mine. I'm like, you could like load 6, dude. Like you have huge hands. If I can do it with nails, you can certainly do it.
True.
And they're like, oh.
Burn. So what's the fingernail story?
So I don't know if you know Ursula Williams.
Yeah. 308.
So Ursula 308. She and Cindy Coker, CZ Cinder, the 3 of us were going to go to Greece for an international shotgun shoot last June, which I was so excited about. All of us were excited about. Ursula and I were doing like morning, well, it's her night because she works overnights, morning quad load competitions on FaceTime. We're just like, all right, go. And just pushing each other every morning, making fun of her. Usually I just ended up laughing and not actually getting as much practice in as I should, but we definitely started to dial those times down a little bit. And right now I quad load strong hand, but I'd started doing weak hand as well. But then when it got canceled, I threw my sucker in the dirt and was fine until the day of, and then I cried when I couldn't be in Greece shooting.
You put acrylic nails on. Did that help push the shells in?
No, I was splitting my thumbnail up the middle, like almost all the way up to the cuticle. And that was happening on this thumb and my index finger. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to end up bleeding all over the place. So we'll just make this harder to happen. So
I like it. It's smart. You almost need a super.
It was preventive maintenance, basically, is what it was. So how do I stop from leaking?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to like starting an IDPA, that probably really helps like your concealed carry draw and getting comfortable with that gun, right? That's what you use to shoot with.
Not my concealed carry draw.
Okay.
Actually, because I didn't carry it in a concealed manner. A lot of those competitors do. And if I were going to go back and play in that sport again, I would. But I was just doing a regular holster with my little fishing vest on. I mean, I can clear a fishing vest with my thumb like nobody's business. But what it did for me and why I encourage people to go and do either USPSA or IDPA from the onset if they think they want to compete in shooting sports in general, is the rule sets more or less crossover. The basic safety rule sets crossover. Now, some of the technical things as far as the target engagements and things like that are different. But the safety, unload, show clear, load, make ready, all those types of things. It's good to get in those habits first before you come to the line with an arm full of gear and a half-assed plan that you're going to forget in 30 seconds. So I found it a really valuable entry to 3-gun and not needing to relearn or learn those things while I'm trying to learn how to shoot an AR and learn how to shoot a shotgun and all that sort of thing. So
yeah.
So
what do you like regret maybe not doing or knowing sooner, like when you were starting out shooting or even when you're transitioning a 3-gun? Like what would you have done differently back then?
I'd have taken a specific course on each platform.
Yeah.
I'd have taken a pistol course, shotgun course, and a rifle course. And then probably gone into a class like I did with Joe Farewell that's integrating everything. But getting the minutia of each of those down would have been, I'd be much farther ahead now
Yep.
Because I definitely spent the entirety of that first season and a lot of the second season just trying to figure out my gear,
Oh yeah.
and know like all of the things on ARs that you need to know, like holdovers on close targets, so you don't hit the no shoot all the time. Yeah, so it was just, I would definitely want to learn more about each platform before I really got going.
Yeah, it's interesting you took Joe's class. I want to take one of his. I took Joel Turner's way late in the game for me too, and he actually noticed that like the weekend loading a shotgun that's 14 rounds long tube, it was limiting my movement, and it's so heavy it's kind of pulling my arm down. Plus it's easier on the 180 when you have this massive stick, right? When he switched me to strong hand, like everything clicked in place. That would have cut my learning curve for 2 years. Like,
Yeah, sure.
so yeah, totally.
Definitely.
Class. That was helpful. Okay, diving into 3-gun too, I was curious. Did you go by yourself to that competition?
Not 100% by myself. My wife Rachel came with me.
Oh, good.
But other than that, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah, so you had no mentor, no coach, no advice, just
No. None. I'm just like, I saw a YouTube video and I'm like, oh, I'll go do that. And bought some crap and some bullets and went to the range. It was a bummer that I DQ'd my first match, but fortunately I think it was like the second to last stage. So I didn't miss like the whole day.
Oh yeah.
But it was definitely one of those like humbling moments, like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Got to pay attention. And I questioned myself, but I think like a lot of us do after you DQ the first time, like, should I really be doing this? And I still take my DQs very seriously.
Oh yeah.
If something happens that puts someone potentially in danger, I'll, when I'm done, set my gear aside and I will take myself for a walk, and we'll have a very stern talk about my behavior.
Yeah.
And my gun handling skills, because it's not funny. It's not that part of it's not a game. That part ends up with someone getting hurt or killed if you screw up. And so I always take those super seriously when they happen.
Yeah, that's sound advice. You know about the Area 5 drama with USPSA?
I don't.
Oof. Well, I'll rehash a little bit of it. So the squad, I guess, behind us, this guy went down, had his gun pointed the wrong direction, probably is what it sounds like, but his gun went off. He thinks that the safety mechanism failed and the safety was off and all that, but it shot around through the crowd. Nobody was hurt, nobody was hit.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And like the way he handled it was not professional, it was not serious. Like he took a picture at Dairy Queen, didn't respond well to people, and we're just like, you could have, like, if that was me, right, I would probably sell my stuff that I was at the range. Like I joke, like I would probably give it to my friends. I would walk away. I'd be done. I'd probably drive home. I'd probably lock myself up for a long time and think about, what just happened. That's horrifying. Even
yeah, I think I'd have probably been like, I'm done for the season.
Yes.
I'm gonna come back next season with some new fundamentals.
Yeah. And these ROs at work, I've had to DQ 180s, but completely flopped guns pointed at me on the ground falling. What could have happened? There's a lot in the sport that we get complacent sometimes. I won't say we, or talk for everybody, but sometimes people that are around guns so often kind of get lackadaisical about safety, right? Or we're around them so often we forget to check those 4 rules all the time, right?
Yep. I've seen it a bunch, and I've had a couple of guns pointed at me when I was ROing, and it, at those local levels, it's worth just stopping those folks. And I think this is good advice for anyone that's ROing a local. DQ them unless they're just really being egregious with their stuff, or they're being a jerk when you actually approach them. Just do a stage DQ.
Yeah.
Watch them like a hawk for the rest of the day. But that can be a deal breaker for people in this sport, is going home and they didn't have a good time because they screwed up and all that sort of thing. So you know, at local levels, it's one thing. Major matches, you better know what you're doing. And yeah, you could go home on your first stage that you just spent $2,000 getting to. And that sucks for you, but you're gonna learn a lesson. But you know, those locals are, I think, is where people get to learn those mistakes in a safer environment, safer from, you know, going home and all that sort of thing. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's all.
Well, and then locals too. I've seen just locals where people let people get away with it, or there's bad habits formed, and that's really where everything that happens there, it does go up, even if people don't say it does, right?
Right.
I like those lessons. And yeah, when you're talking about the spectators that come out to major matches, the kids that come out to major matches with their parents, I mean, we've got to be, anyways, I won't harp on that too much, but I think that was really important that you shared that perspective.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So going back to three gun, the world of
Three gun.
the 2 years of acquiring crap. So I gotta know, what gun and what like glass and gear did you start with, and like what do you have now?
That's funny. So I started with a Stag 3GS and a Bushnell 1 to 6.5 Elite Tactical on my AR. No special compensator, just that came with it. I didn't know you can or should swap that out, which made controlled pairs a little sloppy. I'm like sitting here looking at the Rage comp on this gun, which I love them.
Me too. I have one right there.
Because it just does so much for you. But I didn't know any of this, so I started with that. Started with a bone stock M3000 Stoker that I did do mods fairly quickly too. When they were like, "Oh, you only got 5 rounds. Like you're gonna need some more rounds." And so ordered a tube for that and the spring and all that good stuff. That the gun still didn't totally run right. And I've now figured them out. Like I know how to make them run, not out of the box, but it's out of the box, 3 hours with a glass of whiskey and some 3000 grit and maybe a file or two, and a pile of parts, and it's out of the box running.
I need to like babysit both of mine.
Yeah. We can have a little FaceTime, you know, knocking the corners off the Stoker.
No, the shotgun. That's the one gun I can't figure out. The too, but yeah.
Yeah, and then I started out with just the polymer frame Q5.
Me too.
Which I still love this gun. I mean, that's why it's like I don't like gold at all, but brass is heavy. And so Robin at Taylor Freelance hooked me up with that, and we added some weight to this guy, and so it doesn't shoot as flat as my steel frame, but pretty darn close. And it's got a super cool purple holster.
Purple's your color too.
It is my color. I do like some purple.
Yeah. So your new rig, your new guns, all of that stuff has now been purpleized.
A lot of it, yeah. I still run mainly the same shotgun, which I don't know where I put it. That could be interesting with the house cleaners. Sorry. Yeah, it's in the house. That's fun. So now I didn't bring the Stag out, but I went my earbud. This is my primary 3-gun from Phoenix Weaponry. This one I still have my old scope on. So I run this one with, of course, the Rage, because that makes all the difference. And then this is my backup gun, the lowers, upper and lowers from Phoenix Weaponry as well. But I like the feel of the Odinworks handguard, Athlon 1 to 6, which I love this glass. And then, you know, of course, the Zulu stock. So that's kind of that portion of it. And then the steel frame is my primary. It usually doesn't have a dot on it because I'm shooting TAC Ops, but I've been shooting, I was shooting USS leagues in Lay's division, and they do allow dots on certain pistols. It's basically 2x4 light in USS leagues. So I have a dot on this one, but I love this gun. This is a fantastic gun. I know that you didn't have as good of a experience with it, but
I kind of regret selling the Polymer. The Polymer ran like a top, right? And then I just struggled so much with steel. And I love that gun. I wanted to love that gun. But like when we talk about fit and everything, I couldn't even reach my finger to the trigger. So I would literally have trigger freeze without getting that middle safety to go back. So part of it, I have big issues, not big enough, but that's still the best freaking steel frame gun for the price that's out there.
Oh yeah. Well, and Locke makes different grips for the back of this. I had to put the palm swell back, or the back palm swell back on, because the thin grips were too small. But the two small ones for folks that don't have as big of fingers, it's really a nice fit. So
I even put the thin ones, it didn't reach.
that's okay. It's okay. We could have put an Overwatch on it and that would have solved it, but we didn't know each other then. So
that's true. I tried to find those for a long time. They're out of stock, but yeah, great. It's a great thing to know like what people shoot, because what's the trigger that's in your rifles?
So I run a Rise 535 in all of my competition guns.
Yeah.
So this PCC has the same trigger that all my ARs have. Both my PCCs do. I want all of my forward controls to feel exactly the same. So this one hasn't gotten the new safety because I don't shoot this one in competition very often. But all of them have the same safeties on them. I use the Phase 5 tactical remote bolt release, same trigger, so all same grip, so that everything feels exactly the same between each platform. And I find that really handy.
Oh, I agree. And like for PCC, when you're shooting that, that's almost like cross training for your rifle, just with cheaper ammo.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I set it up that way. I'm going to probably not make many friends, but one of these days I'm going to go start shooting some USPSA PCC matches with a 1-6 LVPO. I'm going to show up and they're just going to be like, what is wrong with you? But think of what kind of great training that's going to be because the rifle, the entire rest of the rifle is exactly the same as my competition rifle.
Yeah. You could even have the scope for the longer shots for sure. And then you could have an offset red dot, just like you're allowed to have. You know?
Could, but I'll probably just run it like it is.
I like that. Yeah, it's good training. So
yeah,
you get to shoot some of the cooler competitions, in my opinion. You've got like Superstition, like the cooler surefire matches out there. So what all have you shot 3-gun wise across the country?
As far as major matches are concerned, I think my first like official major was a Girl in a Gun Fall Fest.
Okay.
Cindy and Ursula drugged me to that, and Ursula told me where I was going to place or else. Like I wasn't scared enough for her already at that point. Not scared for her anymore. As long as I don't have to bail her out, that's fine. We had some pretty fun times. I probably one of my favorite matches that isn't considered a major anymore, but is still 100% major hard, is Rocky Mountain 3-Gun Championships down at Raton. Denise and JJ are masochists. They hate us all. And so they'll set up some of those impossible scenarios, or, you know, a target that's right behind a rock right here, so that if you don't stop exactly at 179 and shoot that target, you're either going to miss it or break the 180 and go home. So you got to be careful with some of the stuff that they do. Texas 3-Gun Championships is probably permanently on my list of matches to shoot every year. Reveille Peak is just such a huge property, and every year they offer something a little bit different. Last year they offered rain. That was great.
I was gonna say you
Lot-
shot in the torrential downpour.
I've shot in more matches wet this year than I have dry, which is really kind of odd considering I live in a highland desert. But I went to the Wyoming Governor's Cup, and getting all my gear together, and literally took my muck boots, and I'm like, I'm going to a higher desert. I don't need those. Oops.
Yeah.
Definitely need those.
Yeah, I saw the flood.
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, it was bad. So yeah, that Governor's Cup is fun. Surefire's fun. The USS leagues, I like the way that they set up their a lot of their stages, and where they have them is awesome. Surefire's out at the Cameo Shooting Center, which is in Grand Junction, Colorado, about 3.5 hours west of me. And that shooting facility isn't the best in the country yet, but it's only half done.
Ooh, okay, cool.
It will be one of if not the premier shooting facility in the country when it's done.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's incredible, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy that is the range master, but he's a visionary. He's a shooter himself, a competitive shooter, and like he's doing stuff like having people base jump, land in a 10 ring, and so you get points for that, and then when you land, you have to shoot. He commissioned Lanny Barnes to come do and design a bikeathlon course. So instead of skis, after you shoot, you jump on your mountain bike, you do a single track loop, you come back, you shoot. Same thing over and over again. So he's just doing some very revolutionary stuff, and it still makes me like, I got goosebumps thinking about it. But up on the rocks, so it's all sandstone cliffs all around you. So up on the rocks in the morning of major matches, they'll have a band up there, and they'll play the national anthem Jimi Hendrix style with an electric guitar, and it's just like, I'm still getting goosebumps.
Really epic. That's what
it's
I love
amazing.
about our sport too, is when we sing the national anthem or and have that at the beginning, because the Pledge of Allegiance, like all of that is huge for us. That's why we have our firearms.
Yeah. Well, in the AMU guys like literally stopped in their tracks. Like one guy was on the way to the bathroom, stopped in his tracks and just stood at attention at salute the entire time. And you watching that guy and the flags in the background, it's like, I'm surprised I could shoot. I was like, I got the America feels.
Sure, you've heard Mike Dell sing.
Oh,
see,
Mike Dell has the most wonderful voice.
Yep,
he is absolutely amazing.
Sing.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy hearing Mike sing. Yeah.
So cool. So yeah, our sport is awesome.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
I'm trying to think what other majors I've been able to shoot. I was supposed to do Blue Line this year, which I was bummed that I didn't get to come and hang out with you. Some family stuff kind of got in the way of that. Mystery Mountain is definitely a fun and interesting match. It's a little bit different. Their rule set's a little bit different. So, since we don't have a unified rule set, it's super important that we all make sure that we know what the rules are. Because you can go home pretty quickly that way if you're not aware of it. So like I'll take I have all my holsters set up on an ELS, and so I'll just unclip it and put it in my gun bag or put it in the back of the Jeep or whatever. But that'll get you sent home at a USPSA match.
Yeah.
So it's always good to know what you can and can't do where.
Yeah, and even range rules, like not competition ones, but governing body of the range too. So that's huge.
Absolutely.
So going back to all these like matches, I'm curious, 2 questions. What are your favorite stages to shoot? And then what's your strongest firearm out of the 3?
Not my rifle. My favorite matches, I think, or the favorite stages to shoot are ones that definitely include a gully run.
Okay.
So open terrain, I think is my favorite just generally. And part of that, it's just different from what you normally see. We're really lucky here in Colorado, and especially on the Front Range. And what we mean by the Front Range is everything east of the mountains.
Okay.
So we're just on the east side of the mountains, but within 2.5 hours of my house, I can shoot 3-gun every weekend.
What?
We have matches every single weekend, and that's just 3-gun. You want to shoot USPSA, you could probably shoot a USPSA match on one day, or an IDPA match, and then shoot 3-gun the other way, or vice versa. But yeah, every weekend you can shoot a match here.
That's badass. See, we have 3 sometimes, like we'll have 1 or 2 a month, but like that's the hot.
Every single weekend. So we've got NOCO Shooting Sports puts one on. Weld County Fish and Wildlife puts one on. Big Bend 3-gun puts one on down on the south end of the metro Denver area. SoCo, which is down in Colorado Springs, and then Pueblo, which is about 2.5 hours south of here. Every single weekend you can be pulling triggers.
And that's not a long drive. Like when people listen to this podcast, it's funny, and they send me a message like, wait, you guys drive that far? And I'm like, that far? That's close. Like,
my rule of thumb, so we bought a camper this year so that I could, I don't like, as a single woman, walking into a hotel with that much crap in my hands. For one, I have too much crap in my hands. I can't defend myself well, even though I have lots of guns. Only one is loaded and I can't reach it right now. So I don't like that aspect. I don't like being the girl in the hotel with all the guns, because people notice that. So we picked up a camper. So now kind of my rule of thumb is if it's longer than 11 hours, I'll fly. But if it's under 11, if it's 11 hours towing, I'll drive.
Cool. I like it.
Just because it's easy when all your stuff's in one spot, and most time you can camp on the range. And so I like doing it because wait till everybody else walks stages, and then I'll eat my dinner and go walk stages and see what's going on, and take more notes and do that sort of thing.
So cool. I gotta ask, what truck do you have or vehicle do you have that pulls that?
I have a 2017 Jeep Grand Cherokee Trailhawk.
Cool. So that has the towing capacity to pull a camper, or is it smaller or pop up, or?
It has a Hemi.
Okay.
And no, it's our camper's 20 foot long.
It's huge.
And weighs about 5,000 pounds loaded.
Okay.
But with it having a Hemi in it, I think tow rating on the Jeep is 7950.
That's amazing.
Something like that.
I'd have to.
So yeah. And there are some great little campers out there that your truck will absolutely pull. That's my singular complaint about Toyota 4Runners and Tacomas is they're underpowered.
I know.
They're amazing. They're amazing trucks other than that.
Yeah. One day I do want to do the camper. I think that as much as I travel and love to travel and can stay in one place and work, that's the dream. So many people 2 and 3 gun have done that. There's a lot of us that have campers, and the ranges that facilitate that are incredible.
Yeah. And even then, like a lot of times I'll stay in a state campground.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Because you get a state pass and it's not that much per night, and I have hookups or whatever. But I've also made it so that I can boondock, and I bring 2 generators, so if it's hot on the range, I can still run my AC and do all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a luxury that I have grown to like quite a bit.
You can't go back now.
I can't go back now.
Love it.
So, and besides, I end up getting into shenanigans with like Taylor and some of these other people at the range because we're all camping.
I miss that. The ladies invasion in Atlanta. Yeah, everyone would bring the campers, and we just pretty much have the fire in the middle of all of the campers, and that's where the food's at. So
yeah, we tried to do that up in Wyoming. We just ended up with a lake.
Yeah, there's a little bit too much. You could swim to each other. Or Taylor's got her kayak.
She kayaked there. There's video. We took it off of her car and put it in
Yep.
I think it was stage 5. We put it in stage 5 and she was paddling around.
It's crazy to think about. People don't realize, like, we're not dramatizing this. It's real. It's real.
Oh yeah, I almost lost my shoe twice.
Hmm.
Just because the mud suctioned around my shoe so hard that when I went to move, I almost pulled my foot.
It was painful
Yeah.
to watch magazines being dropped too.
Oh yeah, yeah. That magazine got a bath in the sink that night.
Oh God. I've been there though.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, you've got a cool jersey too. And we, of course, three gunners love our customization, our colors. So tell me about the jersey and the companies that you work with.
I think I had it right here. So my jersey is Rosie the, can you see this okay? Is Rosie the Riveter. And part of that is, it's kind of a multi-part thing. I was a welder for forever, and obviously, riveting things together and everything that went on during World War II. That was when specifically American women started to learn, like, oh, we can do stuff too, and we're actually pretty good at it. And so I loved that especially women, were becoming aware of that. So that's where Rosie came in. Phoenix Weaponry supplies me with my rifles. Athlon Optics, which are great glass, long shadow holster. If you've not had a long shadow holster in your hand, like, you should, because it's amazing. Tactical RX is probably my longest standing sponsor of 26 years now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Taylor Freelance, Lot Grips, and US Law Shield. And my wife, because she's a trooper, and videos all the matches that she can go to, and puts up with my shenanigans, and
Oh yeah.
wonders what happened to me when I went to the shop for something and I get stuck on the reloader for a couple hours.
Yep.
She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I just thought I'd break, just bump out a couple hundred rounds real quick and then come back in. As soon as my drink's done."
Yeah. Then we're done. Yep. There you go.
2 hours later. But yeah, so that's kind of what that's about. But also, I really like empowering women to learn how to do all of the things. Dylan Easley is a great 3-gun shooter, chiropractor, genuinely good guy. During the pandemic, he taught me how to build rifles over Instagram. I have mechanical aptitude from my background anyway, but I built this rifle. I built both of these rifles. I built my other PCC. Rebuilt my Stag completely. Built another gun that I sold. So yeah, I've built a lot of rifles in the last year.
It's the best.
But once you learn how to build them, it's great, because when something breaks, you know almost exactly immediately what it is. And after stuff breaks long enough, you know what spare parts to carry.
Yes.
That aren't just going to show up in somebody's little parts bag somewhere. Like, I carry a trigger and a bolt carrier group.
Yep.
And that's not something everyone carries, but I carry that even to major matches.
Yeah, Obsidian Arms gave us, gosh, I can't remember which match, I still have it, but like a firing pin set, and then like an oh shit kit. Yeah, you got to have extra bolt. Bolt carrier group's huge. I also travel with charging handles. I don't know why, but I break a lot of them.
That's a good one. I've never broken a charging handle.
Oh yeah, 3 in a row. PCC rifle, doesn't matter.
Maybe you should Hulk smash a little less.
I'm breaking everything. I switched to Raptor. So far, so good. When you sling, something to think about.
I do love my Raptor.
Yep. And when you sling that, it doesn't hurt. Like, it doesn't pinch into your back, because the oversized ones can really do that.
Sure, Jan.
Can confirm.
It still jams into my back. It's either that or the throw lever. I'm not sure which, but either way, it doesn't feel nice.
It could be the throw lever. I didn't think about that.
But it's all. I've also got skinny bitch problems, so
Tough.
I got
I hate it.
bony.
Awesome. So going back to those companies too that work with you, can you share a little bit about like how they support not just the shooting sports, but you and the Second Amendment as well?
All of them obviously are pro 2A. What I like about my sponsors is what they're concerned with first and foremost is that we're representing them well. And that's pretty universal through almost all of them. It's always nice if you come in, top 5, whatever. But that's not exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for like at a situation where I had a squad mate that had to reshoot. And G9 is my ammo sponsor, and he's like, I don't have any more rifle ammo. And so I just handed him a full loaded mag, and said, here, shoot. He got done. He's like, okay, give me your contact info. And I'm like, nope, that's compliments of G9. Like, those aren't my bullets. Those are bullets they gave me to shoot. So if it allows you to shoot the rest of the day, then we're good. And so that's what they expect from me. Part of what I really like about it is all of them are passionate about supporting women in the shooting sports. Yeah. Which is obviously super important to me. But it's also, I've seen a lot of ladies go to some of these companies because they do sponsor me. And so they'll come back around to those companies and be like, yeah, it's really cool that you're actually supporting women, but also, I've got a couple of sponsors that specifically, they're like, we actually really like the fact that you're LGBT and that we want to include that. And then we support that, which I think is really rad. Not all the companies in our community are willing to do that. But I also think it's maybe a little bit short-sighted.
Yep, I agree. That's a growing demographic, which I know we're going to talk about that too, which is really cool.
Yeah. But what I expect of them is I don't ever want to get a call from someone who chose to purchase their products and had a bad experience.
Yeah.
I will be just as quick to look and reevaluate that particular agreement if I hear that, because they want me to reflect well on them. I expect the same in return.
100%.
That needs, the customer service needs to be on point, product delivery, even if it's tardy, like we all know, especially in the last year and a half, everything's tardy. The reason that gun just got finished this last weekend is because the bulk carrier group that I ordered in February just arrived. And it's just, supply chain sucks right now. Yeah. But if you stay communicating with folks and saying, sorry, but this is what's going on, most people will understand in my experience.
Yeah, and I don't want to be too negative on this, but I'm surprised sometimes at, like, there's 5% of companies I feel like that are communicative in our industry. I don't know why that is. I love them. I appreciate them. They set expectations, even if they are, longer than we expected, but there's so few that are responsive or on top of it. If you tell me, hey, it's gonna be a year, I'll be like, cool. That's all I wanted to know, right? Is the year.
Yeah.
I will expect that. But you tell me 2 weeks for a year, then it's not okay. Or not at all.
Exactly.
Doesn't respond
Yeah.
at that.
Exactly. I think a lot of these manufacturers, we think of as very large companies. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, they're just not.
Yeah, they're smaller than you think. It's families.
Like way smaller than you think. Like Long Shadow Holster is 4 people.
Yeah, have you been in Distant Arms out in Texas? It's the smallest building with a ton of work.
I haven't, but I can imagine. But yeah, there's lots of those that they're in small little warehouses that they've got packed full of more stuff than they can pack in there, and they're making it happen.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that is they're so busy with what's going on that they're not taking the time to make sure that the customer service is still staying top notch.
I agree. My companies that are on my back are the ones that are reflecting the same, values that I have. And my question to you too is, how can we as shooters, not just sponsored shooters, shooters in general, add value for companies, whether it's online or in person, or do more for the companies that do support this amendment,
I think keeping the word out there is a lot of it, but it's it's a fine line, right, between talking about something that's a constitutional right, and letting that not be a partisan issue, which I feel like it gets shoehorned in there like many other issues do, to where it's one party or another, when it's not one party or another. It's for Americans.
Yep, people.
And the companies that I work with realize that, and that they realize that it's bigger than just one subset of voters. It's bigger than just who we traditionally think of as gun people. It's a lot bigger than just that group. I can't tell you how many people that I know that in the last year and a half that have come to me and said, hey, will you teach me how to shoot? Or they've come out to me as a shooter, which is a funny thing to say, but in some communities, saying that you're a gun-toting queer is probably, they're going to be like, oh, we're fine with the queer part, but the gun part,
yeah.
Oh, or we're like totally great with the guns, but the queer part, I don't get that at all. So all of my sponsors know that about me and support me, and I really appreciate them for that. And that I think they do, just by doing that, it allows me to have better conversations with their potential clientele.
Yeah.
Because if they know that they're going to go and have a positive experience with people that are relatively open-minded, they know that they're probably going to have a good, safe experience no matter what background they come from.
Yeah, actually, let's go into that. So talking about like the LGBTQ community, I don't know if I'm leaving anyone out, so correct me if there's another more.
We added a plus because even there's a lot in there.
Yeah. So I'd love for you to share like the rising number, like you're talking about, of firearms owners that are in that community, and how important it is for not just companies like we're talking about, but everyone that shoots, that's representing kind of our industry, to be inclusive of regardless of age and religion, sexuality, and all of that. Like, share about that experience and how important that is.
Sure. It's been weird on a lot of levels. I mean, I have had to correct myself in my preconceived notions of who folks are and what they were going to be all about. Because honestly, I wasn't super jazzed to come out and say, yeah, this is my wife. That's with everyone was just like, oh, your friend. I'm like, we stopped being friends a long time ago. But once we did, like, nobody cared. I mean, there was probably one person that was like, want to go have beers? And when beers didn't really mean beers. But that's kind of it. I mean, no one cares. At least in the 3-gun community, no one's ever given us crap. My friend Chad said, he's like, why doesn't your husband ever come out here? I was like, because I don't have one, because I have a wife, because I'm gay. And he's like, oh, okay, that's okay. And I'm like, I know.
Boys.
And now they just treat me like one of the boys, because being in the shop for being in an automotive shop my entire younger life, and being in welding shops for most of my adult life, you take the shop out of, or the girl out of the shop, you cannot take the shop out of the girl. I'm gonna say fuck for a very long time.
I love it.
But what was the question again? Oh, how is it LGBT in the firearms community? I think more than anything, they're just kind of surprised. the people that I come across. And then other people are just like, oh yeah, whatever. You
Yeah.
can shoot, so you know how to handle yourself, and so you're just one of us now. But no one's ever given us shit. There's been more than once where there was a opportunity for some off-color joke or whatever that got shut down. But every once in a while, like I'll just jump in with a punchline, and then they're like, ah! But it was interesting too. Like I have a couple people, like when I first started competing and started putting that on social media, I lost friends.
Yeah.
But I lost friends when I came as gay too. So, people are pretty isolated in their own little narrative, in their own little world, and don't really know or think to ask questions about all this stuff. And that's really all it is just learning about other people.
Yeah.
And we all are looking for the same thing: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Why shouldn't that be available to everyone, including the ability to protect ourselves or just go recreate how we would like to?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to ever shoot somebody, ever.
No.
I will,
Yeah.
but I don't want to, because that's not something I want on my conscience. People talk a lot about home security, and they're like, oh, if someone breaks into my house and steals my TV, I'm gonna blow them back out the front door. You want my TV? Take my TV.
Yeah.
Your life is not worth my $1,000 deductible.
No.
It's just not. The guilt on my conscience isn't worth my $1,000 deductible. Now, you come past a certain point in my house, that's not going to end well for you. But if you want my TV, just take it.
Just go away. So
just get out of my house before something bad happens.
Yeah. You mentioned welding. I know you have some pretty neat skills. So people don't know this. You're a welder for 16 years before retiring. And I gotta know, how did you get into welding? Like, did you go to school for that, or did someone teach you?
I did go to school for it, much to my parents' chagrin. So in high school, I think it was I was a sophomore in high school, and I had to pick an elective. So I'm going through the school catalog, trying to figure out, okay, what am I gonna do? And there was metal shop, and I was like, what's up, metal shop? I don't know anything about metal. I know how to wrench on stuff because my dad taught me how to do that stuff, but I don't know how to weld or anything. That'd be kind of cool. So I signed up for that. Went home. My parents were like, no, you're a horrible student. You're signing up for speed writing and note taking class.
Ooh.
And I'm like, that's some bullshit. But okay. Signed up for speed writing and note taking class along with 2 other kids. So they canceled the class.
Yes.
My backup was metal shop. I got done with that semester's curriculum in about 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then the next semester, I got done with the entire semester's curriculum in 2 weeks.
How?
Metal speaks to me. I just understood it. I understood how it worked. I understood how it moved. I understood how it melted. I got it. Like as soon as I got my hands on it, I was just like, okay, I can do this. And then at the end of that semester, the instructor, who was also the football coach, so everybody called him coach, hands me a brochure for the local vocational technical school and says, you need to go to Warren Tech. If you sign up for my class again next semester, I'm failing you. And I'm like, coach, what the fuck? Like, I'm literally been your student aide like all year, been a golden child, and now you're gonna actually fail me if I sign up for your class? He's like, you know more about welding than I do.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have anything else to teach you.
Yeah.
So you need to go somewhere that does, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Because then I went into that, and the rest of it just spoke to me as well. And so I became a certified welder, I think my second semester of welding school.
That's so
it's been an invaluable skill. I mean, the time that I entered the market, it was right about the time when a lot of robotic welding started. So we were promised a very good wage, which I did my homework, was there. but over that 2-year time span when I was in school, the welding market definitely went down. So I never made an amazing living at doing it. But I've never wanted for a job.
That's cool. Yeah. And then you stuff at home too.
Yeah. And I did that for a number of years too. I did some, I call it functional art. So more furniture and things like that, based on found design. I have a coffee table that's made out of just push rods from internal combustion engines, that holds up a glass top. That was a hard one to do. All kinds of stuff around our house, just whatever needed doing, and sold a few pieces. Our local gun range over here, 5280 Armory, they didn't have any way to get like a bobcat or anything in to get all the rubber out of the end of the range.
Okay.
So they were having to do it with wheelbarrows through the main door because there was no other door out. And so they had said like, "Oh, we really want to put double doors in there." And I'm like, "Well, we can do that." And like, "Can you make it airtight and bulletproof?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so those doors were 685 pounds each and were airtight and bulletproof.
That's badass.
I know, because I shot it myself.
Oh, that's a cool project.
Yeah. When you get done, you get it hung, everything's done. You're like, okay, now the real. And my friend that was helping out, he's like, "Should I go move my truck?" I'm like, "No, you're fine."
That's so cool. So, yeah, going back to like shotgun, I mean, all of that, like you were also a mechanic, so you've got custom work, you can weld, you can work on your own stuff. Like, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we four-wheeled for a number of years, and nothing except for owning a Ducati motorcycle will make you a really good mechanic faster than rock crawling. Because you're gonna break stuff a lot. And when you break, what's that?
Have you seen Bruce Davidson do this every day? The match.
No.
Oh, so he did Blue Line. He's the one that set up all of those stages.
Okay.
So every day I see a picture of his whatever it is, I can't remember, but yeah, his rock collar off wheeling in the shop. Something's broken. Oh my god. Every day.
Yeah. People tell me all the time, like, "Oh, 3-gun's so expensive," and I'm like, not compared to having 2 rock crawlers that are street legal, but you wouldn't want to drive them to and from Moab. But we used to, in general, one of the Jeeps would break at least $1,000 to $2,000 worth of parts a week.
Oof.
And the tires on Rachel's were Kevlar sidewalls. They were, my cost when I was working in the industry was $575 each.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
For one tire?
Yes, it's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be for everybody else.
No, it's still $2,200 in tires, not including the wheels. So it was, yeah, that's an expensive sport.
Yeah.
This is not nearly as much, and I don't have to spend nearly the amount of time wrenching on them either.
True.
So
because
I'm too old for that shit.
Yeah, I have no like mechanical incline, so I'm having to force myself to learn, and I've gotten more comfortable. But like going back to like customizing our guns, knowing how to work on them, not just for addressing issues, but like explain why, having stock firearms is not ideal for everyone that shoots competitions, right? Like your hand size, again, is different from mine. Your trigger pull is going to be different feeling than mine. And how important is that, to customize the gun to the person?
Personally, I think it's paramount. Now, once you've acquired those skills, can you pick up most guns and be very proficient with them? Yeah. But if you start with something that isn't really fitted to you properly, it's going to take you a lot longer.
Yeah.
You'll get there eventually. If you're dedicated to anything, you'll get there regardless of what you need to do. But having a firearm that actually fits you is really important. And learning that process isn't easy. And so seeking those people out is a really, I think, a really helpful thing to do. You know, talk to your, you know, to the folks that make your holster and make sure that this is set up the way that you want it. You know, my pistol sits a little bit farther forward than right at 180 on my side. I have these set up for specific reasons. These guys that sit back here behind my pistol, I have for specific reasons. So having it kind of tailored to you, in my opinion, is super important. And like I said before, with all of my forward controls being the same throughout all of my long guns, I can pick them all up, and it's just, I mean, we call it muscle memory. It's not actually muscle memory. It's your basal ganglia that's storing all that information for you.
Basal ganglia.
Yeah. So your basal ganglia is what is what's responsible for habit. So the reason you can back out of your driveway without really thinking about it is because that information is stored in your basal ganglia, which is right at the base of your skull. And so setting those things up to where repetition is just, it's the same. I set up, you know, setting up my magazine hole pouches to where they're the same, but I do the same, you know, I'll do the same thing with my concealed carry mag in my back pocket. So doing all those things to customize it for you, what's comfortable for you, what's going to make you not strain to do anything, or that over the course of doing it for a day isn't going to cause major strain on one thing or another. So that part of body mechanics, I think, is super important from a customization standpoint, but also just making it so that it's easy to use. Like if you're not hitting that mag release, which they actually do make an extended mag release for that pistol now because of that problem, probably. It's important to do those things, I think. That's why I fell in love with Walthers to begin with, is because just ergonomically, they felt right. A Glock doesn't feel right to me. Glocks are perfectly good firearms. Nothing against Glocks. They're just not my firearm. So I think customizing them is important. Now, should they all be purple? Maybe not.
White, yeah. White,
I mean,
red, purple, green, all the colors of the rainbow at 3-gun.
I mean, they should be a color.
Yeah.
Because black's boring, and FDE is also boring.
Yeah, and like gray and silver, I don't like all those. They're just so blah, I guess, for me.
I have a gray gun. My Stag's gray.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a starter one. My Daniel Defense is black. That was my starter gun, you know.
Yeah. Good starter gun though.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, I lost my train of thought of what I was going to ask you. Oh, the cheek weld. That's the other thing. The biggest thing I think for rifle problems, like, and having struggles for me, like trying other people's guns, was that the cheek weld was not set up for me. So you and I both, we have different stocks, but ours are adjustable height wise. And length of pull too is huge for different size arms and all of that. So I think that's my one advice with customization. That cheek weld is everything to see a good scope, you know?
It is. And I, from observing people, I think it's one of the major reasons that people don't shoot a shotgun well.
Yeah.
And actually the reason that they have a lot of malfunctions with a shotgun.
Yep.
Because if you don't have a really good seat in the pocket, and for us ladies, I mean, there's a lot of people that will say, oh, you're supposed to do it this way or that way. Put the stock on your bra strap, curl your shoulder in to kind of cradle it there, and that's the pocket. There is no other pocket for us. It's like between your boob and your shoulder. But I know if I've had a difficult day shooting with my shotgun, that if my cheek isn't kind of sore, that was the problem. That I was not getting it cheeked hard enough, which almost always means that I didn't get it into my shoulder tight enough either, which that in and of itself, I've watched a couple of people have malfunctions. They'll pull the trigger, they'll come back and hit their shoulder, and then it didn't either eject that round or didn't chamber the next round. And I'm like, it's essentially the same thing as limp wristing a pistol.
Yeah.
And it malfunctions. And so, yeah, getting all of those things set up, getting your eye relief on your scope, super important. Making sure that eye relief works everywhere.
Yeah.
And by everywhere, it's gonna work great here, but does it work when I'm going prone? And what magazine am I using when I'm going prone? Am I trying to go off of a single 30 round? Or with Taylor Freelance, they've got these cutouts that you can couple them. And so I'll run a 40 with long range ammo and then a 30. So there's two of them. And that, for me, especially, I have a really long neck and a long head. And so I have to use a 40 rounder to get up high enough when I'm prone to get my neck in the right position to actually get a good sight picture.
Yeah.
30 rounders have caused me so much pain, and not physical, like, because it just can't, I always get that little floating shadow.
Drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's good times.
But the couple magazines on AR-15, yeah, game changer. Couple them for sure. Figure out what works for you. That at least you figured it out. What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a lot of what it is, and what I like about this sport is, to me, and it's kind of like welding and fabrication and mechanics. Even you're never gonna know enough. The learning never ever stops.
Yep.
I'll be learning if I decide to shoot this for the rest of my physically able days. I will probably have forgotten half of what I know, but that learning process is never going to go away. And I love that. Like with welding, there's always something new, like learning how to weld Inconel and Monel and titanium and metal matrix and some of those kinds of things, and how you have to do. I know nobody knows what those things are either, except for titanium. But learning how to do those things and pushing yourself mentally and physically is just something that's always kind of kept my juices flowing. So
I love it. And then going back to shotgun too, you brought up something I think that's really important. Inertia shotguns obviously are driving, well, not obviously, but for people that don't know, it's driving on inertia. You do have to have that proper, pocket hold, because that has to run the action, right? So one of the things I see so often is just maybe finding a better shotgun for you that's a gas gun. Like that Beretta 1301 is a great shotgun. I kind of want one just for funsies because it's a really soft shooting gun. Gas guns typically are. But you don't always have to run inertia. Run what works for you reliably. So if that's a struggle, I recommend that gun.
Yep. And for a good budget gun, a Stoker's a great. If you're just getting into it and you're not sure it's going to be your forever thing, that gun's always going to have another job.
Yeah.
And which is sort of a philosophy that has kept me from moving to open until recently. I've begun to question this. I'm more than open curious. I haven't gone into that because of the shotgun.
Yeah.
Partially because I haven't seen, Distant makes great guns. I haven't seen one run flawlessly yet. Now there's been some that run really, really well.
Yeah.
For box fit shotguns, but nothing that's been flawless so far. But kind of taking a peek at that Genesis Arms Gen 12. It's an AR-10 upper that goes on an AR-10 lower and shoots 12 gauge. I'm like, that could be fun. But it's also like, do I do that, or do I buy a 2011, or do I do both and I just don't eat for the next 9 months?
That's where I'm kind of at. I need either a major power factor gun or I'm gonna go open. And yeah, it's like 10 grand to save up for that shotgun and that pistol.
Yeah. And how do you explain that to your wife?
or kids. I was gonna say too, you've got kids and you've got a mom or your wife, and you've got to balance all of that and financials. Like that's kind of a challenge, right? How do people do that?
You just have to mind your P's and Q's. There's definitely, I've invested money in this, which is certainly over, especially this year, saved a lot of money. But also that's the only reason I'm shooting this year.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to reload to shoot this year, which was interesting. Like I had never reloaded. No one really taught me how to reload. Fortunately, my ammo sponsor was very generous with recipes, and like when I got myself stuck, I was like, I don't know about this. They would walk me through it. But yeah, it's in a year like this where even ammo companies are like,
yep,
sorry, not this year. There's just nothing to be had. Even if we had it, it's already sold. So yeah. And then just making sure that like I'll turn in some of this, turn some of this stuff into like regular vacations. So like Surefire, the last day of Surefire was on Rachel and my wedding anniversary. And then a week later was Rocky Mountain 3-gun, which is down in New Mexico. And so I was like, well, why don't you take the week off? And even though I'm going to be shooting on our anniversary, I'll take you out to a nice dinner. But then we'll take the camper and we'll kind of tour through southwestern, south central Colorado, and then end up in Raton at the end of the week. And we did that. And so, turning some of it into visits with family or mini vacations and things like that. But I also try to do it as cheaply as I can. We run all of our finances through one specific points, Sky Miles points card. And so we have points for days just from paying our normal bills. And I always fly on points. And so that's a savings. If I can stay with somebody that I know in a city, like when I go to Austin, my cousin lives in Austin and he has a truck that it doesn't really drive. And so I get to take his truck. I stay at his house that night. I get my spot for 3 nights, and then I come back and spend another night at his house. So it's things like that would kind of balance some of those costs out. Now that pandemic doesn't have me locked in my basement, just working and browsing gun parts every day, that also has had a positive effect on our budget, because there's more guns I want, but to do what I do, I don't need any more guns.
Yeah.
I want them.
Yep.
I don't need them. So yeah, but yeah, I used to have a really strong opinion of like, if I needed to, like I can use this for self-defense, or I could go hunt with it, or whatever I needed to. Same thing with the shotgun, the pistol. Like they all have jobs outside of competition. We might be getting dangerously close to, but they don't have another job. They just race.
Well, shotgun too. You have to put the original grip back on, put the plug in, all that crap for duck. But yeah, that's
I just take the tube off.
Yeah, it's just a lot of work to do that.
It is, especially when I only clean my shotgun like twice a year.
Yeah. I want to ask you too, how, for people listening, like how can you raise kids around firearms? How can you take that curiosity factor out of it, and still be safe around the house?
First of all, have a safe.
Yeah.
Let's start with that. Whether you just have a pistol safe or a small safe that holds your long guns and your pistol, keeping them locked up is important. But also teaching them just here they are. Here's how they work. This is the only way that they're going to go off. And don't touch that part unless someone else is around. Don't touch the gun at all unless someone else is around. And that's how we proceeded. And then beyond that, it's like, she's long out of the house now, my daughter. So it's not as big of a deal anymore. I mean, she might be your age actually. She's okay, she's good. That makes me feel better. She's 20, she's 25. We have guns around the house staged in strategic spots.
Yeah.
Well, when we have friends over that I know that they have kids, it doesn't matter how well hidden those are or how difficult they are to get to, everything goes in the safe.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we managed that, and continue to manage it with smaller kids around. And like my nephew, he was a little bit too young to really handle firearms responsibly just for his maturity level at that point, because I don't think there's an age. There's some kids that are amazingly responsible and they listen well at 7, and there's some that are 17 and are at the same level.
Not funny, but it's true. It's true.
Yeah, and usually this 17-year-old is not a girl. Because all 17-year-old boys are like squirrel.
Yeah. What?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just making sure that they're locked up, but also with my nephew, we gave him one of those little salt guns for shooting flies.
Yeah.
And it was pump action enough so that he wouldn't annoy us all day with it.
Yes.
Because he'd get tired of pumping it. But that's how we taught him muzzle discipline and trigger discipline and all of those things. Is he'd turn around and say, "What?" And we'd be like, "No," and then that was it for the day. No more salt gun for the day. So there's other ways that you can incorporate that are much less dangerous. Airsoft, BB guns. BB guns, especially the ones that you have to pump, are my favorite for kids because they don't want to do it for that long.
Nope.
And so we get some fundamentals in, and then they do their own thing for 20 minutes, and they're like, she makes us work. We gotta go.
It's bad because my brother and I knew how to shoot growing up, and we were really good about the safety rules. But man, when we had airsoft pistols in the house, we would totally shoot each other across the room as much as possible. We, to this day, it's kind of bad. To this day, upstairs was like our huge playroom. We'd have like couches and stuff we'd hide behind. My dad still finds the little circle BBs, or the airsoft rounds. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't shoot airsoft until just before the pandemic.
Okay.
And that's when I found out that Umarex made a Walther PPS.
Yeah, I have that
in airsoft.
Yep.
And at the time that was my main daily carry. And so I was like, sweet, I can practice all of my drills and I don't have to go to the range. It's awesome. And so I still do it every couple of days. Just I've got targets set up over here, and I was bah, 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 bah. And because everything, I swapped the sights out on it.
Right.
I spent more on the sights on that gun than I did on the gun.
Mm-hmm. Solid.
But it needs to present like the gun I carry.
That's true. Yeah. I like what you said though. My nephew's the same way. We're teaching him even the plastic guns, the fake guns, they're real guns. Yeah. So if he can't not even point them to people for funsies, then we're not putting a live gun in his hand either. So
Right.
Good. So for you, wrapping this up, kind of, what are your future goals that you set for yourself in 3-gun or in shooting sports in general?
So I have some lofty ones for this next year. I mean, that this year was supposed to be that, but like I said, I had some family stuff that sort of knocked that down several pegs. But this next year, I've never particularly physically trained for this sport. I've been a lifelong athlete, and so I've done all kinds of things, and I don't sit still, so I maintain a pretty good muscle mass. But I could be in a lot better shape. I can run quickly. It doesn't mean that my breathing rate is going to be good when I get there. And so I want to get stronger. I want to get my cardio better. I want to have the core that I had, 15 years ago, when I was putting 46-inch tires on trucks several times a day. That I just want to be stronger in those ways. It's already a benefit because I live at like 5,700 feet above sea level. Is where we live, and then we have a condo up in Lake Dillon, which is about an hour west of here. The range that's up near there, that's at about 9,400 feet.
Wow.
And then I'm snowboarding anywhere from 9,500 feet all the way up to a little over 12,000 feet.
Never been that high.
Um, Coming to Colorado, you get as high as you want.
I was gonna say all that. Semantics. Phrasing.
But I'm being physical at those altitudes. So I'm in the trees, really moving my body around and moving my core and all that sort of thing. So it's really usually either Mystery Mountain or Texas. 3-gun is my first, major of the year. It's always fun to get to the end of a stage when you're in Texas and these people are just like and I'm like, what?
It's not fair. Yeah. The
Like
elevation kill me.
it's just a stroll. And then you get some folks that are coming up to do like Surefire, and I think Surefire is at like 4,400 or 4,700 feet above sea level, which definitely has an impact on a lot of folks.
Yep. From Florida and Alabama specifically.
Yeah.
My friends
Yep.
want to go, but yeah, elevation was a real thing. That's interesting. So lofty goals are, remind me.
Lofty goals is I'm gonna get in the best shape that I've been in the last at least 15 years. By Thanksgiving, I will have made my decision on whether I'm going to try to shoot open next year or not. Well, not try, do or do not. But it'll really come down to whether I want to do the pistol or the shotgun first. If it's the pistol first, I'll stay TAC Ops this year. If it's not the pistol first, then I'm just going to jump into the deep end of the pool and run a non-open pistol in 3-gun and practice a lot with it so I can slay.
Yeah, you still be good with a pistol. I think that shotgun would make a huge difference loading wise and time wise, and yeah.
I think it's going to be huge. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is really long range rifle has definitely been a weakness of mine. Anything inside of 200 yards is a no-brainer. In local match stuff, we're doing just for fun because we can, because it doesn't matter. We're doing offhand 100-yard shots all the time.
Awesome. Yeah.
Which is super great practice. You hardly ever see anybody in a match do that, in a major match, even though you should, because you can. But we always get nervous. We're like, no, I can brace on. But getting much better with my rifle past 200 yards is one of my major things, because I look at my times versus other ladies that I know that I shoot nearly as well as, and the ones that were long range. Yeah. I'm always several spaces down from there. So now that I've learned how to build them well, I'm definitely going to be taking some classes to just understand it a little bit better. I got some really great advice this season, just as far as some of the holdovers and some stuff that I don't know how I haven't learned until now. Like there's every once in a while you get those pearls of wisdom. You're like, yeah, why didn't anybody ever tell me this? So now I know some of that stuff, and so integrating those things, but also learning from people that are really good at doing this, and getting on target and getting the shot off quicker. That's my biggest thing. Like I can get down into position, but actually getting the good stable position and getting the shot off and knowing exactly where it's at on my reticle, that's my biggest weakness at this point.
I'm telling you what, that NRL 22 and PRS actually really does make a difference.
That's what I've heard.
I shot NRL 22 2 months ago, and I was working on positions because that was my struggle. Is I didn't understand you needed like so many points of contact, like as many as you can possibly get, right? And the very next match, what was it? Great Lakes 3-gun. So like 3-4 weeks ago, I hit the 630-yard target in a match in 3-gun. I'm like, and that was my thing, is I don't do long range. I don't really understand a lot of that. So that shocked me. I was like, well, wow. And then I watched my video in another one. It was 100, 200, 300, 400. And I went one for one, one for one. But it was because I literally had every single thing braced up on this vehicle where I wasn't moving. And I'm like, now I understand position matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you and I both. Rifle is not my fave.
I love shooting it, and I want to get better at it. It's actually been a really point of frustration for me, because my guns do run really, really well, and they just don't break. And they just part of that is because I'm kind of meticulous about maintenance, but they don't tend to break. So I really would like to be able to do it better.
Yeah, I like those.
Because I don't like walking into any situation that in a 3-gun match to go, shit.
Afraid of, or yeah, or like, dang it, yeah.
And I have that feeling like I want to be able to go walk in and go, okay, I need this, this, and this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And not be like, ugh, which right now is probably as much a problem as anything else.
Mental.
So, yep.
Yeah. Have fun. That's what I've learned. The matches, I don't.
That
well,
is true.
I don't understand it, but like I'm doing the same thing. I kind of decided to dive into PCC. I figured that was good cross training. I haven't given a shit about PCC because I don't shoot PCC. I'm like 5 or 6 matches in, and then every single time I go, I'm like winning things. I was like, so you need to not care, have fun, and just send it. I'm like, oh, why can't I do that and everything else?
My not caring about PCC came last year at the Wyoming Governor's Cup. I didn't have an optic on my PCC.
Irons.
Like I just built it. No,
Nothing.
no irons, nothing. I function tested it. That was it. Took it to a match. Took an optic to the match. And I'm like, I can't actually see my laser bore sighter on this target out here. So I ended up laser bore sighting it off the side of my Jeep and then competing for 3 days with it.
Oh yeah. And it worked well.
With a gun that I had never competed with before and only really shot like 8 times to make sure it worked.
Oh my gosh.
And not pulled the trigger 8 times. I shot it like 1 time before that.
Oh my gosh. Hey, it's fun though, right? Why not?
So much fun. Like people can make fun of PC all they want. And until I put one in your hand, you're just gonna be giggling the whole time. And then you're gonna come away and be like, stupid PCCs.
Yep. Yep. So often one of my guy friends is like, now, like, damn it, now I get it. Like, I'm there.
Yeah, and they're fun. Like this one weighs just shy of 5 pounds.
It looks so light. I was wondering, is that the tack-on?
Because the barrel's only this long.
Yeah.
It's a 5.5 inch barrel, but it's got a shroud on it.
Yeah.
It's a TACCOM upper and quarter swivel to end lower that I just put together. So
the heaviest piece is probably bolt carrier group and the optic. Like, if that.
Yeah. Certainly nothing else. But my other PCC is the one that I compete with, and it basically is an orange version of this with that optic on it.
Cool. Why orange? What happened?
I didn't have orange.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say we haven't gotten it to purple yet.
No, that one will stay the way it is.
I like it. So
because there's all kinds of different colors. There is too much of a good thing.
It's true. My PC is a hodgepodge of whatever I had around. So it's red, it's blue, it's black, it's whatever. It works. I like it.
There you go. That's what matters.
So for you, like a new discipline or a new division, like you said, you might try open. Do you think you're going to try any of those other sports to like cross train in the future?
I'm definitely want to get into doing some PCC, USPSA, PCC. I had half a mind to try to train for PCC Nats this year, and because of some of that family stuff, sort of put the brakes on that. But it still hasn't extinguished that fire. I'm like, I feel like I want to go slay with a PCC, so that's part of the working out goal, is to just be able to move very, very quickly. and then making sure that I'm able to hold that weapon system in my hand as long as I need to.
Yep.
So I want to be comfortable holding that thing up for 10 minutes straight.
Ooh,
Like I want that to be an easy thing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because I have these. They're just lead ingots, and so I'll put 2 Picatinny rails on the end and put it on the underside of the end of my rifle and just hold it. Just hold it in position.
I think about that. That's like duh.
But that was one of the things that I've taken a couple of classes from Lanny Barnes, which were invaluable. And one was simply just doing rifle holds.
Okay.
Because when you're doing that, eventually you'll get into this whole thing to where you're doing a figure 8 because you can't hold it anymore. That's when you know you need to stop, take a break,
okay,
then come back to it again. But doing those rifle holds, those exercise all of the micro muscles that help you hold the gun steady when you're presenting it out. And so doing those holds is a good exercise. Same thing with the pistol, same thing with the shotgun. So doing those holds, getting it on a small dot, like you can even do it on your light switch. Like you hold the reticle on the light switch for as long as you can until it starts moving around. And then you still hold it as tight as you can when it starts moving. And then when you can't control it anymore, stop, give yourself a couple minutes rest, come back to it, do it again.
Brilliant. And Lanny, some people probably don't know who she is. Olympian, badass, and she's had everything really come together, I think, in the past couple of years. Like she crushed Two Gun was on.
Yes.
She absolutely dominated that competition. That was cool to watch.
And she is one of the kindest, most down-to-earth people I have ever met in my life. I mean, she's got every reason in the world to have, to kind of have a, big head, and she doesn't at all. Oh yeah. And if it's your first major and you can squad with Lanny, do it. Even if you can't squad with Lanny, if you're on opposite schedules or whatever, go find her squad and just watch. Yeah. If you find her and you're walking stages, it's going to help so much to just learn how someone else looks at a stage. I trained at her house, and I looked at this, like I had all the time in the world, right, to look at a stage that we had set up. And she's like, how would you do this? And I was like, good 10 minutes of stare time. And I look at it, I said, okay, I do this. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, how would you do it? She's like, this. And she cut out a complete movement. And I was like, wait, but I didn't see that. It was just a different way of looking at it. And so it's starting to tweak how you look at the geometry of things, and thinking about it from above and below, and in front of the course. How does that look, and where you have to go, and reimagining that. But yeah, Lanny's super good at doing that. And man, we shot a lot of rounds.
So cool.
We shot a lot of rounds.
And like her stunts, I love her Instagram. Disclaimer, please don't try this at home.
Yeah. I tried to stand on the exercise ball one day. Not end well. And I thought about doing the snow shovel clay launch, but I'm like, I'm just gonna whack myself in the back of the head.
It's true. I would do that.
I might try it. We'll see.
I like it. So wrapping this up too, are there any other final thoughts you want to leave listeners with? Maybe, any recommended books, reading, classes, anything that they can just absorb to get started?
I think Kita Booth's her movement book is a great book. I have 2 long range books that are sitting there waiting for me to make some time to read them. So I can't vouch for those ones. Joe Farewell is an excellent 3-gun instructor. If you're in the Arizona area, so is Ursula Williams. She's killer at it. Just, you better not have thin skin. Love you, girl. not wrong.
I need
Just
to go.
trying to make sure you have a good time. Um, and Lanny's another instructor that's really great. I mean, there's lots of JJ Rakaza, lots of other really, really great instructors out there. You actually took a class recently from somebody that I've been wanting to take a class from, Travis Tomasi, which I've kind of been looking at that DS9 also.
Sweet. He didn't have the new one with him. I got to shoot his minor gun, and it was nice. My Atlas is a lot heavier than his though, because he has the aluminum grip. I mean, he outshoots me, so there's no, it doesn't matter, right? But yeah, that's a cool gun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he could outshoot me with an LCP
With a Glock
2.
6-round capacity gun with his reloads. Yeah.
Yeah, like a Glock 43. You'd probably kick my ass.
Yep. It's insane. So classes, yeah, read books, I like those.
And then I think just get out there. I know it's intimidating, and you feel like you need to go out there and you need to bring your A game or whatever else, and you so don't, and you so better not, because your A game, I don't know about you, I have yet to find my A game, and this is my 4th season, or coming up on the end of my 4th season. Not there yet. Not even close.
Nope.
Bring a pistol, bring a belt, bring 3 magazines, and right now ammo, because nobody's going to give you ammo, and get to the range and sign up for a 3-gun match. Tell them you're brand new. Tell them you have a pistol, a holster, and 3 magazines and a belt. And that's all you're going to need, because in 15 minutes, we will have scrounged up enough stuff that you'll be able to shoot. When I go, and anytime I can drive to any competition, whether it's a local or a major, I have 2 complete sets of guns.
Yep, same, which is another reason I hate hotels, but $30,000 right there,
Yeah, it's fine, totally fine. But just get out there, ask tons of questions. But I think the biggest thing that I tell everyone that's new in the range is come out and do 2 things: be safe and have fun.
Yep.
You're not going to be good.
Yep.
I don't care if you're a cop, you're not going to be good. You're a SWAT officer, probably better than most, but probably still not good. This is a totally different game that no one ever really plays in. And so, go out, leave your pride at home for the day. It could use a rest anyhow. And go out and just have some fun and shoot with some people that do something totally new and that you're going to get instantly hooked on. Just know that you're going to get instantly hooked on it. It's going to cost you a lot.
Yes, yeah, that's true. And it'll be our fault. And that's fine.
That's fine. You can blame me all you want.
Yeah, you're going to have the time of your life.
Just be like, people blame me for stuff all the time. Like, it's Courtney's fault. I'm like, probably.
Yeah. Good with that. My favorite thing about 3-gun too is like it levels the playing field. Like watching 2-gun shooters, like amazing pistol shooters, they struggled a little bit on the rifle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like then you've got these snipers. Say a sniper comes out, well, they're gonna crush rifle. It might be humbling to shoot a pistol.
And I've seen snipers go out and flail on long range because you're shooting a different optic than what they're used to. They're used to shooting something, 1,000 yards, and they're using a mil reticle, and then all of a sudden they're into a BDC maybe, and they're like, and just completely choke. So it doesn't matter who you are, you got something to learn.
Absolutely, love it. Well, Courtney, how can people find you online, on social media, and reach out to you?
I am Mile High Gun Girl on the Instagrams and the Facebooks. If it's on the Facebook, send me a message, because I took that off my phone because it just made me mad every day when I looked at it. I check Instagram much more often, but I will get the message if you send me a message. But yeah, it's just Mile High Gun Girl, all one word.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the 3-gun love. I loved having you on this podcast.
Well, thank you. I loved it too. It's a lot of fun, and we're gonna have to decide on a match and go shoot a match together, because we didn't get to do that this year.
No, I think 2022 is gonna be our year. We're gonna figure out our schedule early on.
Figure out our schedule and just start at least taking notes on shenanigans, even if we put them in a jar and just be like, this is the shenanigan for tonight.
I like that idea. I like that a lot. Awesome. Thank you again. Yeah, go follow her on social media. Great ambassador. And again, social media is a great place to connect with people. You'd be surprised how many people actually respond to your message. So don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I respond to all of my messages. So except for the ones that have your junk pictured in them. And then we're probably not gonna be friends.
I can't. Yeah, that's true. The creepy ones, yeah, no. Mm-mm.
I mean, I answered those ones too, but it's not the same.
No.
But yeah, come out, and especially ladies, don't be intimidated. There's those of us out here that are doing it, and so come and have fun, and let's shut the boys up.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of females, they get surprised when they're not last and they're not bad. Yeah.
No, I know a lot of women that are much better shooters than their male counterparts starting out.
Yep.
Just out of the gate, they're a lot better because A, they listen, and two, a lot of times they're just better, more of a steady hand.
Yep, love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, and stay tuned for the next episode of the Reticle Up podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Reticle Up podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Follow along on social media at Reticle Up or 3 Gun Kenzie.